What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Lifestyle Nutrition Podcast. Thank you all for joining us every week. We appreciate you. And we got another amazing special guest coming on. He's a nutrition and lifestyle coach, just an awesome coach. And I'm super duper excited to bring his story and his mission to everyone out there and just share more about him and the value that he can provide everybody today. And so I'm so pumped to welcome on Logan DeCamp to the podcast. What's going on, Logan?
Hey, Alex. Thank you again, man, for having me on. I'm super excited to be on the podcast today and hopefully just provide value to some people that are being able to listen right now. You know, that's like my overall purpose, mission, and goal is just how can I help at least one person a day. So thank you for taking time out of your day to have me on.
Absolutely, dude. I know you're going to help more than one. You know, I've heard your story, or at least parts of your story before, and it is extremely inspiring how you got into coaching and just your mission of why you do what you do. And so I'd love for you to just start out there and just tell everybody, like, you know, who you are, why, you know, how your journey got you to today of being a coach and being so heavily involved in the health and fitness space.
Yeah, of course. All right. So for those that are listening, if you hear me mumble like a little bit, I do have a stutter. So it's not the Wi-Fi, it's not the audio. Things are working just fine over here. But did just want to mention that for the people that are listening. But you know, I'm actually a story that kind of ties into being able to be a coach and kind of being able to overcome my past experiences of having this speech impediment and being able to come on a podcast like this with Alex and, you know, really being on camera and having a microphone is definitely something that I did not think I would, you know, ever do in my life. But, you know, it's one of the best decisions I ever made. And, you know, going back to like who I am and kind of where I am from and all that, I am from a small town in Illinois. It's not Chicago. Whenever I say Illinois, everybody's like, "Oh, it's Chicago." I'm like, no, there's a little bit more to Illinois than Chicago. It's about 5 to 6 hours south of Illinois, or excuse me, 5 to 6 hours south of Chicago, in Quincy, Illinois. And I, growing up in high school, I was not great in school. I started smoking and drinking at the age of 13, so was not the best of student, you could say. You know, no disrespect to my parents. My mom was still young. My dad was overcoming a lot of things in that life. So just didn't have a lot of parental guidance at that point in my life. But again, I love my parents for all that they do. And at the age of 15, I moved to a small town in Missouri. Completely changed my environment. I started to fall in love with golf, and it got me out of smoking and drinking and all of that. And at the time, I thought that's what like my purpose was. Is like I need to do something in golf because it kind of saved me from a path that would have been not even close to what I'm doing today. Like if I would have kept on doing what I was doing at the age of 13, I don't even know where I would be. But at the age of 15, like the power of changing your environment is so big that it really just allowed me to create a different path in life. And from there, I graduated high school somehow. I started doing better in school by the age of like 16. So somehow managed to graduate from high school. And then I went to a technical college in Missouri for golf course management. Which I then graduated with a associates of applied science. I cannot tell you nothing about golf course management now, so don't ask me nothing about weeds or turf or anything because I'm not going to be able to tell you much about that.
That was going to be my next question.
So then from there, I went to the Ohio State because I thought that like I wanted to get a bachelor's degree in golf course management, but turned out to not be the decision for me. So I went there for a year. And as a result, my college background allowed me to do a lot of internships at very prestigious golf courses. And it allowed me to travel a lot. And I sort of loved being able to travel, gain new experience, being able to network with new people. So although I'm not in golf course management anymore, I contribute a lot of my character and who I am because of my past experiences, right? Like being able to travel at the age of, I think I was like 17, going to different golf courses. And I was in Colorado, Missouri, Ohio, California, Utah. And as a result, because I was able to work at these golf courses, I worked my way up into a really high place in my career in golf course management, to the point where I was working at Riviera Country Club in Pacific Palisades, California. Being able to move to Los Angeles, California was like a dream that I had since I was a kid. Just to live in LA, to live next to the beach. I mean, hell, I live 2 miles away from Santa Monica Pier. I was in a beautiful area, and I just remember, being so depressed and unfulfilled with my life. And that like drove me absolutely crazy because, at this point I spent almost 5 years, working so much, and I, took out loans for college, and, I worked a lot to get to the place where I was in life. And the fact that I wasn't happy or fulfilled in life really just drove me crazy, and thought like something was wrong with me. And I didn't truly understand this until like just not too long ago. But what really, changed for me, and what really flipped the switch, is that although 2020 was a very hard year for a lot of people, and it was a very tragic time, it was probably the most wonderful year for me personally, because the world shut down. I was able to take a step back from work and really just try and unpack this whole reason of like, why am I so depressed, right? And again, this has been like a evolving journey that like I've been trying to still figure out and put together. But basically what happened in 2020 was like, hey, my mom lost a bunch of weight at this point. She lost like 120 pounds. I saw how it completely changed her life. Fitness has been something that's always been there when I'm depressed, and it's helped me tremendously. And I also, like, once I started to read about fitness and nutrition and all these things, it took me a while, and I wish I would have learned sooner, but I started to realize that it could have potentially, saved my dad from some of the symptoms he had of cardiovascular disease and cancer that he struggled through for 11 years. So I made the decision. I cut my salary in half overnight to become a personal trainer in Utah in September of 2020. And now for the past 2.5 years, the 3 is going on almost 3 years, I have now been a personal trainer at Vasa Fitness, but now I've really invested a lot of my time, energy, and effort into Champ Camp Fitness and Nutrition, where we're on a mission to lower the risk of cardiovascular disease through proper nutrition and exercise.
I absolutely love it, man. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. It's an just amazing story of getting there, and I love your mission of Champ Camp Fitness, right?
Champ Camp Fitness and Nutrition, yeah.
Fitness and nutrition. Yeah, I love your mission there. I think that's amazing. I haven't heard that mission from anybody else who I've talked to just in the coaching space. So I think that's awesome that you're also trying to help people, and it sounds like trying to make it so that other people don't have to go through what your dad went through, or that they can get into a better place and still be around. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, this is something, again, this has been like a evolving journey that like I've been really trying to understand, but something that like was a recent, more of a recent epiphany for me was that like, yes, we're on this mission to lower the risk of cardiovascular disease through proper nutrition and exercise, but really it's so much more than that, because I just remember throughout the very later years of my dad's life that I would come home to see him. He would always be apologizing to me and my brother because he wanted to spend time with us. He wanted to do activities with us. He wanted to walk around the block and not be in pain, but he couldn't because it was just the cancer and cardiovascular disease was so bad that he was just in pain all the time. So he wanted to thrive, but he couldn't. And that really broke my heart. And honestly, I couldn't even imagine somebody going through what he did, even on my worst enemy. So, we do have this mission, but it's also like, we just want to help people thrive in every area of their life. That way they can, play with their kids, play with their grandkids even,
No, I think that's awesome. I love everything about that, man. And I'm so happy that you were able to shift from where you were in golf course management. And it sounds like an awesome situation at Riviera, which is like, from what I, obviously they host tournaments in the PGA, right? Like, and so like you're like, that's amazing. But then you shift over to this job. Like you said, you cut your salary in half overnight. And I'm curious, like, how did you go about like making that decision and just really understanding what your true purpose is on this earth?
Good question. Honestly, if I go back to 2020, I think really at 2020, that point in my life, the pain of staying the same started to exceed the pain of change. We've heard that from Tony Robbins, right? And at that point, I didn't care what would happen as long as I'm happy and more fulfilled with my life. Like, that's all I really wanted, because I just could not keep on doing what I was doing, because I was the worst person to be around. Like, going to work at Riviera, like, it's a beautiful place. People are normally happy unless it's a tournament week and you got to work. I'm 120 hours, but anyways, I would just be not the most fun person to be around, because I'd always be frustrated, unhappy, very negative. And it's just like, I didn't like who I was. So in 2020, it was just, I have to do something different, because I could not continue to live my life this way. Right. And, now going into 2023, I've been able to kind of, put more of a reason why I did that. But really, to get to the root of what you're asking, in 2020, it was just, I did not want to stay the same. So I had to do something different.
No, I think that's awesome. And obviously it links a lot back to, I'm sure, clients that you work with, right? Like they get to that point where they come to you, they come to me, where they're in all this pain. And I'm sure you also see people who struggle to find that drive to get to where they want to be, like that why, that driving force, that clear purpose of why they need to move towards, a healthier them, better like lifestyle choices, all of this stuff. And I'm just curious, like, how do you help people find that why or find that purpose in their journey?
Yeah, great question, by the way, Alex. And I think this is something that I believe is how people can find this why and their purpose and their driving force. Because, to be honest, I believe almost every person struggles to clearly define what they want in life, right? And it's a very hard thing to ask yourself, like, what do you want? Well, it takes a while, right? But if I ask you right now, Alex, what do you not want? What do you not want in life? You could easily probably just tell me 5 different things, right? Easily.
Yeah.
So the reality is like, instead of finding what you want, start with what you don't want, because you've probably seen somebody go through something. You've probably been through some sort of traumatic experience, and you've been through that. And as a result, if you don't want to do something, what do? You do the opposite, right? And then you can start to shape and clearly define what you want in life.
That is awesome, dude. I absolutely love that. So you're like, do you have your clients like just like list out like, hey, like, what do you not want with your health, with your, like, what's your, almost like, what is your like anti-dream outcome? Like what would you absolutely hate if this happened in your life?
Yeah, it's definitely something that we're starting to. So this is actually a just most recent epiphany. So for the people that are listening since January, so since the start of this year, I've been really working on mindset and myself. And I've been really just trying to dive into who I am and where do I want to go. And this what I'm telling you right now, as far as identifying what you don't want, is something that I actually just learned probably about a month and a half ago. And it was actually with a conversation that I had with a client. Cause with clients at the big box gym, there's often not a lot of time for us to sit and talk, because it's kind of short sessions and things like that. But this client, this day, we had more time, and I really wanted to dive into his driving force. And all of a sudden, lo and behold, he saw his brother-in-law go through something that he does not want, and he wants to do the opposite. And I'm like, you know what? That makes perfect sense. So in regards to what you're saying, we are going to start rolling this out to our clients as well too. And this is something we've been talking a lot on our Facebook group, because I strongly believe, and most people probably know this already, but it's very, very hard to go from point A to point B if you don't even know what point B is. you're at point A, but we don't even, like, where are we going? There's probably 100 different paths that we can go on.
That's an amazing epiphany to have. Just the fact that, like, if you can, because it is true. Like, I've struggled with this so much in my life, like figuring out what I really want. I've sat down a million times, probably like everybody else who really wants to grow and wants to go somewhere big. And like, it's like, I know I'm meant for something bigger, right? But then, like, what is it? And you just sit down and you write down, like, well, it'd be kind of cool to like have a golf membership, and just kind of think of like just like weird random things. Oh, it'd be kind of cool to have like a house with a rooftop on it, but then it's like, why do I want this? And you can't really come up with it. But so I think that's amazing. Just I'm honestly probably going to use that, like with my people, or find a way to be able to implement that on my side, because I think that's a great, at least, tool for people to think about. If you're out there struggling to figure out why you really want to do this, is to figure out why you don't want to, like, what you don't want in life, and then start doing the opposite of those things. And then, if you stumble upon stuff that really doesn't make sense, or you feel like a lot more resistance with it, and it just like doesn't feel right, then take a pivot, right? It's just like you can kind of keep making adjustments along the way. And so I think that's absolutely amazing. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious. So like along the way, like I've had a lot of different times where I've tried to change, or I've had to change these like whys, and like just have kind of figured out it fizzles out, or you like have that situation going. Do you see that with your clients as well? And like, how do you navigate those situations where it's like, you know what, they came in with this really deep why, and now they're struggling a little bit to find that motivation or that driving force again?
Yeah. I think it comes down to, I had a mentor tell me that we have 6 driving forces in our life. 6 driving forces. And it comes down to significance, certainty, uncertainty, connection and love, growth, and contribution. Right? So, and I said connection and love because that's one. But essentially is we all, so subconsciously, we all are programmed to drive by all 6 of those, but one of those is going to stand out more than the other. And I believe it's important for not only, a coach that you might have in your corner that is supporting you on this, but also being able to understand what drives you, and again, some people might be listening and it's like, what the heck does that even mean? Try and find what drives me. Well, again, I believe, and this is really, really hard to do, so being able to like maybe go out and work with somebody on this, but look at your past experiences. When did you feel the most, the most motivated, the most driven, the most focused, the most happy? And if you look at those, you might be able to identify, well, I was, receiving some sort of validation inside of my work for being the best employee. Oh, so you like to be driven by significance. You want to, be superior, which there's nothing wrong with that, right? But I think it's super important that people, if you're struggling to kind of stay on that road of, I want to do this, but I'm struggling to keep on going, find what really, really drives you.
Awesome. No, I think that's huge. And what drives you? Well, which one of those is the biggest in your life?
I think for me, the one that really drives me the most, and it's something that I'm trying to work through, is certainty. Because I know that sounds crazy, because in 2020 I cut my salary in half and there was a lot of uncertainty in my life. But something that is also, it can be good for you, but it can also not be good for you, because there might be situations where you have to go into to grow, be uncomfortable, push yourself, that might be a little uncertain, but there's going to be a lot of reward. But I think something that really drives me is certainty, like knowing that this is what I need to do X, X, and X, and it's certainly going to work, is really what drives me.
Same, honestly, same. Like knowing the steps and not feeling like I'm just doing random stuff. But like you said, the unknown can be a huge place of growth as well. So I'm constantly working through that. And what you said with significance is definitely something I'm working through as well. Because for me, as like a kid and like doing sports my whole life, I was always like looking for that validation from everything. It was like, oh, am I doing good? Like, I wanted to be the best. I wanted to constantly get like showered with like, oh, great job, all that stuff. And so I kind of craved it. And now I'm starting to work through that and try to get that more of like the internal validation that I need to be able to push forward and just be the best, just person, coach, friend, brother, son, like that I can be out there. And so like, it's very interesting that you bring that up. And just, I think it's an awesome just exercise for everybody to do, to try to figure out which of those six that are, a combination. Like I said, for me, it kind of seems to be that combination of certainty and just significance that drives me a little bit more than the others. And I'd love it for it to be other ones, right? Like contribution and love, like those are ones that I love. Like I would love for them to be the ones that drive me. And do you think that, this might be a tough question, but do you think that you can change those, or like how can you go about changing just the way that you're driven?
I definitely believe you can change them. It's because like this is, something that I'm personally working on myself. So for instance, I've sort of attached this identity that I'm a fitness coach, which at heart, that's what I am. But I'm trying to attach this new identity that I'm a functional nutrition coach, right? Because I got in the fitness space as a personal trainer working in the field, and I've gotten a lot of experience with that. And I've gotten not nearly as much, but still quite a bit of experience with nutrition as well too. So in regards to being able to change your driving force, I definitely believe it's possible. Is it going to happen overnight? No, but it all comes down to, so something that I've been working with a mentor on is it really comes down to your thoughts, actions, and your words and your mission. I actually have it wrote up here because I'm working on this identity shift, right? So thoughts, words, actions, mission. And, really starting to identify as the person you want to be and having certainty that you are going to be that person and finding those different things that kind of fill your cup.
Yeah. I think this is a great place to go if you're open to like going deeper into this. I am so passionate about this topic as well, because it's funny you say that. I'm working on identity shifting right now in my life. I'm in a program where I'm working to like become a better version of myself, because I've just had these anchors weighing me down throughout my life that constantly pulled me back into the old patterns and things like that. And I kind of just got to that almost like the breaking point for you of like, just I got into enough pain where I was like, something has to give. I don't like what's going on here. And so I bought into a program to help me try to fix my identity and like get into a better place there. And so I'm curious, like for you, what are some things that you're currently working on then, just in your journey to be able to more like layer in that new identity and be able to show up as that person?
Yeah, thank you for asking. I think the biggest one comes down to, so something that I'm kind of worried about is what like I do subconsciously, right? Because I can consciously think about, this is the person that I want to be, this is the person that I need to identify as. But like you mentioned, Alex, we have that old baggage from those past experiences that have shaped us into somebody that does certain things subconsciously without thinking about, right? And as a result, that can hold us back, right? So something for me that I believe truly helps overcome that subconscious part is the way you say things, right? Like look, like just me looking up at this board right now, something that I have wrote out is can, if, maybe. I crossed that out. It's will, when, of course, right? So it's, again, being in line with your thoughts and your words and having no uncertainty about that. If you know at the core that your intentions are pure, I mean, I'm sure that nobody out there that is listening to this has an identity of I'm going to rule the world, I'm going to take over the world, like of course, right? But if your identity shift is to make you a better spouse, make you a better father, make you a better mother, whatever it might be, and those intentions are pure to your core, then all your thoughts, your words, everything that you text, everything that you say has to be aligned with that person. And if you can continuously do that for a period of time, you're going to slowly shift into the person you want to become.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's huge. Like, just it's crazy how much that shows up, right? Like when you have these unconscious programs and these unconscious things that you say, and even like the metaphors that we use, I found like it can really drive into the deep unconscious. I was listening to a podcast actually like last week. I listened to it 3 times because it was so like interesting, and it was about thoughts. And people are probably like, you listen to a podcast 3 times, like that's absurd. But I get like locked into certain things like this. I love these topics. And this lady was talking about, she's like like a psychotherapist or something like that, and she was talking about how like the words we use, like, oh, this paper is killing me, or this job, this boss is killing me. And like you see these people that develop like these diseases and stuff like that after they continually use these wording, because your brain like doesn't know humor, right? Like our brain and our mind, like it takes in these things literally. So she was like bringing up all these different ways and how it's so important to be able to catch yourself in the way you use words, like in everything that we say is very important, because over time, if you continually do these same patterns, like you could develop certain things and become a person that you just don't really want to be.
Right. 100%. Something to add on to that, if I can, Alex, is I was listening to a podcast from Tom Bilyeu. I think I said his last name right. And I've listened to it like 5 times now. And it was about identity. And something that really stuck out to me that Tom said in that was, what scares me more than death is not being the person I want to be. Right? And people might be listening to that and like that might go over their head. But again, if your intentions for the average person that's listening is to be, a better spouse, a better father, for this example, being able to play with your grandkids, being able to live to your 90, being able to be mobile as you get healthier, being able to be more confident, and all these things, you're going to let death scare you more than not being able to fulfill on those things? Like, are you really just going to settle for the average and let just like life pass you by? Like, you were put on this earth to do something great with your life. And I know Ed Milet has said that, and I'm not just quoting him, but I strongly believe what Ed Milet says. Like, you were put on this earth to do something great with your life. And people just really, for a lack of better words, just need a kick in their ass. Let's get going, and let's really start to work on this journey to better health and a better you.
I love it, man. Yeah, I think that's great. And just giving everybody out there kicking the butt and knowing that it's, but also at the same time, like I think the reason why people don't change and why, what we do can be very difficult as well. Like people coming in, they've been in the same spot. First off, over the course of years and years and years, they've been dieting and trying new things and just kind of failing. And it becomes a lot more difficult, but also it's a lot more comfortable to not change, right? It's a lot more comfortable to stay on the couch and to stay eating Cheetos and doing all the things that are super easy, but not necessarily going to get you to where you want to be long term. And so kind of changing directions though, like I know that I guess in the direction of that, like people yo-yo dieting and constantly going lower and lower and lower. A lot of what we end up doing with these clients when they come into our ecosystem is a reverse diet. So I know this is something that you are passionate about. And so I would love for you to explain just what reverse dieting is and really why it's so important for so many people to be able to utilize.
Yeah. So in short, reverse dieting is strategically over time working your body's ability to maintain at a higher calorie intake. And the reason why this is so important in 2023 is because the internet, social media, everywhere you look, and it's changing. I feel like slowly it's changing, but a lot of information out there is very restrictive, low calorie diets. And maybe for some people that are watching this, they didn't get that sort of information, but most people, when they think of weight loss, it's I need to restrict calories. I cannot do this. I cannot do that. I just have to, eat as little calories as possible and get this weight off as quick as I possibly can. And in theory, that works 100%. But the reality is that there's a lot of harmful effects that come with that.
No, absolutely. And it's definitely done a number on myself in the past. My story is that of, the chronic type of dieting, binge and restrict, all that stuff. And so I definitely one of the best things that ever happened to me was finding Jason, finding NCI, and just starting to learn about more nutrition and fitness and lifestyle changes that I could personally make to get myself into a better place, which inevitably ended up me finding a coach to fix some of the things, me becoming a coach, and now getting to where I am today. And so the reverse dieting, it got me into a great place. And it's something I personally do with just about every one of my clients that comes in. And so I'm curious, what are some of the scenarios that you run this play, that you do reverse dieting with your clients?
Are you asking what does it look like if somebody comes in and we talk about reverse dieting?
Yeah. So in what scenarios is this going to be a beneficial thing for somebody to do? Where would they generally need to be, or what's state would they need to be for you to want to reverse diet them and think this is going to be the best thing for them to, let's take a fat loss person, right? They inevitably, they want to lose weight. They want to lose fat, but they come in eating too low, right? This is kind of the standard situation. Other than that, and with that, what scenarios generally do you see where you need to end up reverse dieting somebody?
The scenarios for people that would qualify that need to reverse diet, or I would strongly recommend to reverse diet, would ultimately come down to the people that have done lots of yo-yo dieting. They're always tired. They're hungry. They're moody. They're not fun to be around. They constantly lose weight, regain it back, or they're in a calorie deficit. They're not losing weight, and it's a very low calorie deficit. And they're just constantly in this binge restrict cycle.
Awesome. Yeah. And for you, how do you go about this reverse dieting? Let's say somebody came to you eating 1,000 calories. How do you determine how quickly to go up with their calories with reverse dieting? How do you determine, where to try to strive for? And kind of a third thing, how do you determine when they're ready to go into a more fat loss phase and actually go and see those results?
It's funny you ask that question, because there's actually been a study that came out towards the end of last year that has gotten a lot of controversy, and there might be some inconsistency in the data of the study. I haven't really looked at it thorough, but it was talking about how people don't need to go through a more strategic process for reverse dieting. They could, let's say, for instance, this person, like you said, is eating 1,000 calories. And let's say we calculate that their maintenance point is around 2,500 calories. And according to this study, they're saying that you can essentially go from 1,000 to 2,500 calories at a quicker pace, and there's no necessarily benefit to doing it slowly, strategically over time. And now, although that might be true in the research, in the science, it doesn't take into account the psychological part of this, right? Like, let's flip the perspective and let's say that I'm the client that's talking to you and I'm eating 1,000 calories per day and I desperately want to lose weight. I'm overweight and I'm tired of where I am. And you tell me that I need to eat more food. I'm going to be extremely mad, right? So the reality is that although there's research coming out that supports that we can do this at a quicker pace, there is a very psychological component to this. And I strongly believe that the psychological component to reverse dieting is what often holds a lot of people back from being able to create so much success in their life. Because I'll be honest, reverse dieting at the start is not fun. Like for the first 4 weeks, you're like, why in the hell am I doing this? But if you can get past that, you'll start to notice more strength. You'll not be tired all the time. You'll have your sex drive back. You'll ultimately just feel better. And for some people, you may even start to fit better in your clothes, right? But as far as, what it looks like is it does need to be a strategical increase over time. And there needs to be lots of talks about the psychological component of reverse dieting.
I love that you pointed that out because like that is so true that sure, you could bring somebody from 1,000 to 2,500. And honestly, that's probably the most ideal situation if somebody were open to it for them to get the best results quickest, right? Like they might gain some weight during the course of that, but really that allows them to stabilize a little bit easier at that maintenance point and then be able to actually go into a calorie deficit a little bit quicker. But yeah, it's nearly impossible with 99.9% or for me 100% of the people I work with like that I reverse diet that they'll be ready to do that and comfortable doing that, because weight gain, a lot of these people who are reverse dieting, like you said, they've been yo-yo dieting. They're constantly trying new things and having maybe short-term success and then gaining the weight back, and short-term success, gaining the weight back, searching for this next quick fix. And so weight gain is a huge no there, right? Or it's a huge like, let's minimize this type of thing. And so I definitely love that you pointed that out. And I'm curious, like, how do you go about getting buy-in from your clients when it comes to this then? Like, cause that's the biggest portion of this, right? Is like, if they're not bought in on it, then it doesn't really matter what you do. They're not going to see the results on it. So how do you get that buy-in?
Where do we go from here? Ask yourself that. You're at 1,000 calories. You've been struggling to lose weight and keep it off for the past 5 years, let's say. You have no energy. Your marriage is a wreck because you have no sex drive. You're constantly in a mood. You're not fun to be around. You're always stressed. Where do we go from here? Like, are you going to keep on cutting calories? Are you going to keep on doing that? I mean, did you know that the definition of insanity was doing the same thing twice and expecting a different result? So are you going to keep on doing the same thing? That's honestly, like, it's not what people want to hear, and it can be harsh, but just know that comes from a place of love. Like I have high intentions to help you because my mission and my purpose is to truly impact and help people so they don't have to go through all the stuff that my dad went through. So again, if you're not bought into going through the uncomfortable growth that it's going to take, to ultimately start to succeed the success you want in your life, then you're going to continue to stay stuck where you are now. So again, just like, and I know I brought this up earlier, but I say this constantly to people because I believe more people need to hear this, because a lot of people are so, I want to change, but they don't really want to change. And it all comes back to what Tony Robbins says: change will only happen when the pain of staying the same exceeds the pain of change. So are you in a position where you're so tired with your life, like I was back in 2020, that I don't care what happens, I have to do something to start to see the success and see the results I want in life?
Well said. Well said. Do you want to go down to 500 calories. It's like, no. And that's going to cause a lot more issues, right? Like that's the thing is like what people don't understand is that the lower you go, the more struggles you're going to have inevitably. And, I've worked with people who are eating 250 to 500 calories a day when they come to me. And it's like, I'm sure you've probably seen this as well at times. And like those, I think it's so amazing though, working with those people, and it can be difficult at the start, right? To get calories up. Cause it's the hunger signals have just gone basically non-existent at that point. Right. But I think it's the most rewarding because when they start getting up to even 1,000, 1,200 calories, like they have so much more energy and they're sleeping better. And then like, some of them see weight loss and they, like you said, they're fitting better in their clothes. They're, they have more strength and you see like these amazing changes and you start to see it kind of domino in their life, which is awesome. And so if you're currently out there and you've been, yo-yo dieting, you've been struggling just with constantly trying new things and not seeing success, then make sure that you look into this or you reach out to Logan or myself and be able to learn a little bit more even about reverse dieting if this might be a good thing for you, because we've seen it work time and time again with our clients. And so it's something that can really work wonders and really set the stage for actual fat loss and sustainable long-term fat loss, which is what we're both trying to do, right? Or we're trying to get the sustainable stuff, the lifelong, the lifestyle, like not just this short-term shit like that ends up with you just right back where you started or even a worse spot. And so thanks so much for sharing all of this stuff that you have today. And I have two final questions for you today that we ask everybody. And so the first one is, what is the worst health and fitness advice that you've ever received?
The worst health and fitness advice I've ever received. It's actually funny because I didn't hire a coach until probably 2021. So I became like a fitness coach. I became a personal trainer before like I even had a coach myself. So to be honest, I think the worst advice kind of came from myself. And I know how crazy that might sound, but I just think about how how undereducated I was, and I didn't have much experience, to where I strongly believe that you have to be in the gym 5 to 6 days a week to get optimal results. But as I've done more experience and as I've gone into this longer for the past, almost 3 years, I've realized that people can get amazing results with just 2 to 3 days a week. And most people, 6 days is very unrealistic because they have kids, they have a wife, they have a spouse. So I think honestly, the worst advice, and I know it might be, not necessarily, what most people would be I'm expected to hear, but I think it comes from myself, is that like I strongly believe for a while at my core that I needed to be in the gym 5 to 7 days a week.
Yeah, no, me and you both, man. I thought that was the key. That was the ticket to the body that I wanted to. So I think that's great. Bad advice. Don't do that. Everybody out there, don't do that. I think that's awesome. And the second one, final question is, what's the best health and fitness advice that you've ever received?
The best health and fitness advice is actually a core principle in Champ Camp Fitness and Nutrition. And it came from Mind Pump Media on a podcast I listened to. And it's add, don't subtract. And it's been something that has been a very pivotal piece of information that has really helped our clients, and just people in general, like people that are not even our clients, people that I, reach out to me all the times in regards to fitness and nutrition and lifestyle and like our Facebook group. Because people are always like, I have to remove this, this, and this. But if we look further in, they're lacking a lot of things. So rather than trying to remove everything from your life, how can we simply just add more things in, like add more protein, add more sleep, add more movement, add more water, things like that.
That's amazing, man. That's super duper good advice. It's so much easier to add than it is to subtract. And it kind of goes back to your initial talk on purpose, where you're saying like finding your purpose, finding your why, like figure out what you don't want to do, right? It's almost kind of like that, but in like a different way, different wording. So I think that's awesome, man. And thanks again for taking some time to come on. What I'd like to finish out with is just having you pimp yourself out and just let everybody know where they can connect with you and learn more about just you, get your tips, your social media, stuff like that, where they can get more from you.
Yeah, the first one, and thank you, by the way, Alex. The first one I would recommend is our Facebook group, Fat Loss Made Easy for Men and Women. We have almost 100 live trainings in there now. We're currently doing a mini challenge. So we do lots of prizes, we do lots of trainings, and we always help people because, again, our intentions are to help at least one person. And then the second one is our Instagram at Champ DeCamp. I constantly post reels and helpful information there. And you can find me on Facebook too at Logan DeCamp.
Love it. Love it. Well, go connect with this man. I appreciate you again coming on, Logan. It's been awesome. You dropped some awesome knowledge for everybody, and hopefully everybody enjoyed that. Go apply these awesome tips that Logan just dropped for you. And, if you found this helpful, please also make sure you like, subscribe, you share this with a friend who needs to hear it. You rate us on iTunes and Spotify and all the jazz. It helps us get this out to more people and be able to impact more lives. So we appreciate you. And thanks again, Logan, for coming on.
Thank you, Alex. See ya.